All right, and Rob, if you'll lead us in the third step prayer, please, sir.
It'd be my pleasure. Hello, everybody. My name's Rob Kay. I'm a recovered alcoholic, and we're going to start off with the third step prayer, which is on page 63 of your big book. Hope everybody's got your big book, a highlighter, a pen, and a piece of paper. Remember, it's a facilitated meeting, so if you have any questions, Leo will take them at the end of the meeting. So write them down so you don't forget. The third step prayer. God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me and do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. I do thy will always.
All right. Okay, get a couple of people in here now. We are on page 83, and we're most of the way down, but we're going to go ahead and back up one paragraph and kind of go at the middle there. And page 83, Rob, if we'll start with there may be some wrongs.
Okay, page 83, everybody. There may be some wrongs we can never fully right. We don't worry about them if we can honestly say to ourselves that we would right them if we could. Some people cannot be seen. We send them an honest letter. And there may be a valid reason for postponement in some cases. But we don't delay if it can be avoided. We should be sensible, tactful, considerate, and humble without being servile or scraping. As God's people, we stand on our own feet. We don't crawl before anyone.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I'll go ahead and highlight that last part there. As God's people, we stand on our feet. I mean, we face these with the strength that we have with our higher power, and we don't crawl before anyone. And that is meaning that we don't. I guess the way I looked at that is you know, you don't have your tail between your legs and cower down as far as that goes. Now, at the beginning of this paragraph, we were talking about there may be some wrongs that we can never fully right. We don't worry about them if we can honestly say to ourselves that we would right them if we could. So this is important. You can't dwell, if you will, on some of these amends that we want to try to make and are unable to do so for whatever reason. We covered a few of those over the last couple of weeks as to the ones that we could make and why, and the ones that we probably couldn't and why. But the big message here is about that kind of I'm trying to find the right word. I'll just use the word they use, is worry about them as far as that goes. And the idea is that you've thought about it. You know what you would want to say in that amend, and you've found that it's going to be impossible or near impossible to be able to do, and you move on. And that's an important thing to remember here.
Leo, you got muted. Sorry, brother.
And if you can make them, you want to be sensible, tactful, and considerate and humble without being servile or scraping. And obviously that's that part about kind of coming in cowered down and apologetic. We've also talked about the difference between making an amend and an apology. Just real quick, I had one that this week, as a matter of fact, I finally reached out to a man that I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to get a hold of, nor was I sure if there would be even any reaction. Didn't apologize, just brought up the situation, that I had been thinking about it, and that if there was anything I could do to make things right, I would like to do so. And it wasn't long. It was amazing, actually. I didn't expect to hear from this gentleman, and not only did he reach out, but he gave me his contact information, and he said that things were all good, but that he wanted to catch up at some point. So probably within the next few days, we're going to get on the phone, and I'll just say it's kind of that second circle of friendship and stuff that I had with this particular man, and it looks like we might be able to, kind of get past that amend and probably rekindle a relationship. So I'm here to say that even the ones that I think that are going to be far removed and probably unable to make, they actually do. This I just heard from him yesterday, as a matter of fact. So, and I haven't apologized yet. That's the other part here. If he wants an apology, I'll offer one that's sincere and genuine. But if there's anything else that he would like, I will certainly try to do so. Okay, we are at the bottom of page 83. This is the ninth step promises that we're going to be reading about next. One of Rob's favorites, I think.
Yeah.
So without further ado, if we'll go ahead and start, Rob, we'll go into.
And Leo, doesn't this fit in with what you were just talking about? What we were just gonna read fits in so well with what you just said. If we're painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we're halfway through. We're going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves.
Absolutely. And that is really an important message here with regard to the ninth step promises that we just went through. And you're right, Rob. This is something that happened years ago. I had written it down and thought that this one was going to be one of the long-term, hard to get done, because I had lost contact with this man for a long time. And it was refreshing. It was lifting. It's a great word for that. I just felt better. I had a smile on my face. I was encouraged. He came back with a positive note, and it looks like, again, we're going to be able to right a wrong if he I'm going to guess that he's probably going to say he'd forgotten about it, but I'm not going to put words in his mouth. But I didn't shut the door on it. I just waited for a moment till I was ready, and I reached out, and that's what happened. And it feels good. It kind of calms me down a little bit, because it's a success, and we all as humans want to feel a success, and it is. I just think that's an important part of that, and I feel more useful, and obviously, as they say, the self-pity has disappeared. In this case, I wasn't really having any pity, but it can happen, so there we are. I think there's an important part here with these promises, and that is that they actually are promises. And I know that sounds a little bit, yeah, of course, Leo, that they are, but I can't overemphasize enough as to things like the fear of people and the economic insecurity will leave us. When you have a successful amend, it's encouraging. It is confidence building. It actually gets you to look forward to the next amend. And if not even the next amend, it gets you to look forward to the day. And remember, when we talk about our ninth step, and again, right now, we're still in the preparatory phase to do our ninth step. What we've been doing is reading about the ninth step. We've been preparing for our ninth step. We've read through a number of scenarios that we might face to help us be prepared for that ninth step. And once we get to the ninth step and we're ready, I'm going to tell you, you're going to be at your 11th step. And that's where you're going to ask for guidance in the morning for how you should conduct your day. You've got 1 or 2 or 3 amends you might be on your list for that particular day. and you're going to ask your higher power for that strength and the awareness that you're going to need in order to make those amends. And then at night, you're going to look back on your day and decide whether or not you actually did your ninth step or your amends for that day, whether you had gotten them. And that's kind of what the message I want to try to make to you is, because this is the one step that a lot of people want to jump to even after they get into their third step. The next thing you know, they want to start making amends, because everybody hears that you start making amends to people that you've wronged for whatever reason, but you're not really there yet. And there's a reason why that you need to wait until you've gotten through, and like I said, gotten through to your 11th step before you actually start your ninth. Sure, it happens a couple of steps prior to your 11th, but in all honesty, you're going through these series of steps rather quickly. Now, your 8th and your ninth are going to, your ninth is going to take a while. And once you get finished with the steps, and here's another disclaimer, once you finish through your 12th step, it's more than likely in almost every case that I know of. In fact, I don't know anybody otherwise, but you still have several ninth or amends to make. And it's kind of like a lifelong journey that you're going to be going through with regard to your ninth step. So I think that it's important that you have a strong relationship with your higher power before you begin your ninth step. And that's also important. So with that, I will turn it back over to Rob.
Okay. Remember, we're going to be amazed before we're halfway through. And as Leo just attested to, he was amazed. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will always materialize if we work for them.
Yeah, and that's just really, I can't say it any better. Just some of them happen pretty quick. You've got the short list of the quick amends that you make. Some people are just readily available. They're right there, like your family. Others are within the reach of a telephone, that type of thing. But at the same time, some of them are going to take a while, and they may be something that you need to write somebody or wait to see if they're going to ever, come back into your life and that type of thing. So, but the idea here is that you're constantly working for them and ready to go at a moment's notice. All right, we're going to kind of move into step 10 now.
This thought brings us to step 10, which suggests we continue to take personal inventory and continue to set right any new mistakes as we go along. We vigorously commenced this way of living as we cleaned up the past. We have entered the world of the spirit. Our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. This is not an overnight matter. It should continue for our lifetime. Continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. When these crop up, we ask God at once to remove them. We discuss them with someone immediately and make amends quickly if we have harmed anyone. Then we resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we can help. Love and tolerance of others is our code.
Yep. And there's a lot to this paragraph. First of all, step 10 is something that you are constantly aware of. You're ready at a moment's notice. And if you do things right, in most cases, you might avoid creating a situation where a resentment can be had, meaning that no matter whether it's your resentment or it's somebody else's. So that's one thing to remember with your step 10 is being ready for that. But if in fact something happens and there's a mistake that's made and a potential resentment that's created, it's important that you immediately deal with that particular that particular issue. And maybe it's something that you do or say, and maybe it's something that you realize a second or two afterwards, and there may not be that moment may not be the opportunity to make the amend. But then that night at your 11th step, you review your day, and then in the morning you ask for guidance, And it might be the next day that you reach out to that person and say, look, something happened yesterday, and I just want to make sure that I've made things right, et cetera, et cetera. And there's a number of ways that you might approach that. This is a transition step. And I want to kind of identify with a few things, because this particular paragraph actually has sentences in it that has essentially all 9 steps. So if you will, I kind of, well, I'm just going to say that when we have entered the world of the spirit, that's our step 2. Our next function is, well, okay, so we have entered the world of the spirit. That's step 2. Our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness, which is your step 3. This is not an overnight matter. It should continue for a lifetime. Continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. Okay, that's your step 4. When these crop up, we ask God at once to remove them. And that's kind of your step 6 and 7. We discuss them with someone immediately and make amends quickly if we have harmed anyone. That would be your step 5 and your step 9. And then we resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we can help, which is your step 12. So Bill, in writing this particular paragraph, covers most of the steps. A lot of folks will tell you that their step 10 that they exercise every day, and certainly that is an important part of that. But there is a lot to this paragraph, and it's an important step to make. And what's nice about making your amends quickly and immediately is that there's no dwelling, there's no festering, they don't get bigger, they don't get more distant over time. And you feel better about yourself, and other people will feel better about you individually. And that's an important thing, because we all, at the end of the day, want to be accepted by the people that we have surrounding us. So, all right, Rob.
Okay, so I just want to throw in, when these crop up, the resentment, dishonesty, resentment, we ask God to remove it now, at once. Okay, we don't wait, ask God to remove it now. Okay, we become aware of it, we step back from it, we acknowledge it, we ask God to remove it. And we move on with our day. And we have ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol. For by this time, sanity will have returned. We will seldom be interested in liquor. If tempted, we recoil from it as from a hot flame. We react sanely and normally, and we will find that this has happened automatically. We will see that our new attitude toward liquor has been given us without any thought or effort on our part. It just comes. That is the miracle of it. We are not fighting it, neither are we avoiding temptation. We feel as though we have been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. We have not even sworn off. Instead, the problem has been removed. It does not exist for us. We are neither cocky nor are we afraid. That is our experience. That is how we react, so long as we keep in fit spiritual condition.
Okay, so what's the important message here? If there's any one paragraph in the book that it describes recovery, this is it. So at this point in time, we are recovered from alcohol or alcoholism. Okay, so not that we're going to be cured of alcoholism, but we have recovered from it, and we will always be alcoholics. I want to make that clear. However, what we've basically got here is the recoil from alcohol as from a hot flame. We react sanely and normally, and we find that this has happened automatically. It's just that thing. You get up one day, and by the time the day is over, you look around and say, I haven't even thought about alcohol today. Not to mention the fact that while you're making your amends, for example, that when you have those successes, that is going to create more and more strength with regard to your resistance to alcohol. And it just happens. And that's the miracle of this. I can't overemphasize that enough. It happens, and that is the miracle. All right. And instead, the problem has been removed. It just doesn't exist for us. And that's when you know that you have recovered from alcoholism. All right. So it's a very, very important paragraph. I can't overemphasize this one enough, but that is in fact what has happened here. So next question I will throw out as we go into this next paragraph, and that is how would you know? All right. So Rob.
It is easy to let up on a spiritual program of action and rest on our laurels. We're headed for trouble if we do, for alcohol is a subtle foe. We are not cured of alcoholism. What we really have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. Every day is a day when we must carry the vision of God's will into all our activities. How can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. These are thoughts which must go with us constantly. We can exercise our willpower along this line all we wish. It is the proper use of will.
Absolutely. And the one thing, kind of a couple of things I want to emphasize here, and resting on our laurels. So what do they mean by that? That's meaning that they're relying on your past accomplishments. All right. If you are just doing that, you're going to find yourself at that point of temptation again, and you are going to be headed for trouble. All right. Again, I've said this before, but you're not cured of alcoholism, but you've been given a daily reprieve. I'm going to go so far as to say that that daily reprieve becomes easier and easier. And what you end up with is a string of days. And then those string of days turned into weeks, and those weeks turns into months. And the next thing you know, it is something that you don't even think about. So for example, and I'll say this for myself, because of the fact that I don't even think about it on a daily basis anymore, I would tell you that the strength of my daily reprieve is so strong that I can actually say that it is a weekly or a monthly reprieve from alcohol, and that is a good feeling for me. It's a confidence building kind of thing, and it's one that has come over time. And my spiritual experience was strong now, and I have learned and understand what my higher power is and how to tap into it so that I get that inner strength and I'm able to face the day and the trials and tribulations that come with that. So the idea down at the bottom here where it says, how can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. That's another way of saying your step 11. It's one of those things that you're going to be asking your higher power. So it's just giving you another way of communicating with your higher power. And the idea is that this is constant. And what happens is as you mature with this newfound freedom that you have over time, is that it gets easier and easier, and it becomes rote. It means that you don't have to be so deliberate and methodical about practicing it. It's just a natural occurrence that you begin to get used to, and your life absolutely improves in so many areas, not just in your strength and ability to resist alcohol and move on with that, but also in your day-to-day life, your relationships, and just the way that you look at it and the confidence that's built because of it. Rob?
You know, in the old days, it used to be, what did Rob want? I could only think of myself. Now, my whole thinking has changed 180 degrees. Is what would God have me do in this situation? So when I'm not sure, I ask God what to do. And the answer will come. Because instead of being selfish and self-centered, it's God's will, not mine. Be done. Much has already been said about receiving strength, inspiration, and direction from Him, who has all knowledge and power. If we have carefully followed directions, we have begun to sense the flow of His Spirit into us. To some extent, we have become God conscious. We have begun to develop this vital sixth sense, but we must go further, and that means more action.
It does mean more action, and absolutely. And I want to say this, is following directions is not suggestions. They are more assertive, and we need to look at them and actually follow the directions that's been given us in this book. And by doing so, you're going to feel that higher power inside you, right next to you, right in front of you, and right behind you. In other words, you're going to be surrounded by it. And that's going to be a very confident building kind of feeling. All right, so we're going to go into the step 11 and what it actually suggests. Rob?
Step 11 suggests prayer and meditation. We shouldn't be shy in this matter of prayer. Better men than we are using it constantly. It works if we have the proper attitude and work at it. It would be easy to be vague about this matter, yet we believe we can make some definite and valuable suggestions.
Absolutely, and then we're essentially what this is saying is that you know, through your relationship and your discussion with your higher power, something you're going to be doing actively on a daily basis, and it is something that you get better and better at over time. And what you end up doing is personalizing it between you and your higher power. There certainly are suggestions in here about how to do it. Some of the things that you might say, such as, how can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done, stuff like that. But what you're going to find is that you're going to get this personal relationship with your higher power that you and you alone are going to enjoy and understand. And the extension of that is that the rest of the people around you are going to benefit from it. It really does work. There's no question about that. So we'll just keep going, Rob.
Okay, now it's going to tell us here what we do at night, in the morning, and during the day. So let's start with at night, because remember, the first time we read this is basically when we've done our step 5, and then we keep, after we come home, after doing step 5, we rest for an hour, and then we read on to page 88. So when we retire at night, we constructively review our day. Were we resentful, selfish, dishonest, or afraid? Do we owe an apology? Have we kept something to ourselves which should be discussed with another person at once? Were we kind and loving toward all? What could we have done better? Were we thinking of ourselves most of the time? Or were we thinking of what we could do for others, of what could be packed into the stream of life? But we must be careful not to drift into worry, remorse, or morbid reflection, for that would diminish our usefulness to others. After making our review, we ask God's forgiveness and inquire what corrective measures should be taken.
Right. And we don't have to carry it anymore. That's an important message here at the end, where we're making a review and we ask God's forgiveness and inquire what corrective measures that should be taken. We get to actually take it out of our pack that we have on our back, to lighten the load, set it aside, and actually deal with it in a proper manner. And there are several questions in here that you should be asking yourself in regards to reviewing your day. Do we owe an apology to somebody? Again, that's part of your working, your coming back and trying to be immediate here, so that the resentments or the problems that you might have created are minimized and then mitigated by the fact that you address them as close to immediate as possible. Maybe it is immediately after saying something and go, oh, I didn't mean to say that, and I apologize, et cetera, et cetera. Or I didn't mean to say that. I know that was hurtful. You know, I'll work on not saying that ever again, kind of thing. And if necessary, you know, getting something out and off our chest. You know, if you're dwelling on something, don't, because all that's going to do is fester and create resentments, and those resentments are going to just grow over time. And so it's important to get at the right time, ask for that guidance, or find out what you need to do, and start to formulate a plan for that. All right. Now, I've talked again in the past. This is at that point, and this is where I believe that you are going to execute your step 9 and have the best opportunity for success by doing your step 9 after you have done your morning step 11. And that is all part of, in my opinion, your step 11. Rob?
Okay. On awakening, let us think about the 24 hours ahead. We consider our plans for the day. Before we begin, we ask God to direct our thinking, especially asking that it be divorced from self-pity, dishonest, or self-seeking motives. Under these conditions, we can employ our mental faculties with assurance, for after all, God gave us brains to use. Our thought life will be placed on a much higher plane when our thinking is cleared of wrong motives.
Absolutely. And just think about this as a cleansing moment and a clarity gaining kind of activity. All right. And what you're trying to do is to minimize those negative thoughts, those things that are going to cause you to be afraid or to think in terms of what am I going to get out of this and that type of thing. What you're looking for is to have a clear mind, the confidence that you've got, what, your best foot forward, and then you attack the day with this newfound enthusiasm that you are looking for to be able to face whether it's an old resentment that you're trying to make amends for, if it's something that just happened recently that you want to try to correct, or if it's just that it's time for you to go to an interview for a new job. You're going to walk in there about, let's just call it about a half inch off the ground, because your higher power has you and has been helping you to be confident and ready to face assertively those type of things where you're going to be challenged in some ways negatively, in some ways positively, but nonetheless, you're going to attack it with a positive attitude, clear mind, and you're ready to go. But you have your higher power, as I've said before, surrounding you, and that certainly is a big help. Rob?
Okay, so Leo, we already talked about when we retire at night. We talked about on awakening. Now we're going to talk about during the day. In thinking of our day, we may face indecision. We may not be able to determine which course to take. Here, we ask God for inspiration and intuitive thought or a decision. We relax and take it easy. We don't struggle. We're often surprised how the right answers will come after we have tried this for a while.
Okay, now thinking about this is that you now want to make sure that your own house is in order. All right, and that's where you basically come into this. You relax, you take it easy, have clear mind and spirit, and I will tell you that if you are relaxed and taking it easy, the trials and tribulations of the day are going to come at you much easier, and you're going to have a better time of it. Think of it as if you were struggling in quicksand. As they have always said, that the worst thing you can do in quicksand is to struggle, because you're going to sink that much faster. So just kind of think of that right now, I don't want to struggle. I want to just calm down, relax. I want to look at this in a much different idea and not panic. And there we are. Rob?
Just remember, this is not an overnight matter. This is something that takes time. And the thing is that the more often we see that it works, the more we will do it. Remember, we're growing. This is a growth step. Okay, we're always trying to get better. Some people say it's maintenance step. I always say it's a growth step, because we're always trying to get better at it. People, I talk to new people and say, have you prayed today? Oh, no, I haven't. Well, how's your day going? Oh, not going so great. Geez, I wonder why. And the more we do it, the more we see that it works in our life. But as I say, it's a growth step. We forget. We try to take our will back at times. Remember, is it God's will or is it Rob's will? If it's Rob's will, it's not going to work. I want to do God's will. What used to be the hunch or the occasional inspiration gradually becomes a working part of the mind. Being still inexperienced and having just made conscious contact with God, it is not probable that we're going to be inspired at all times. We might pay for this presumption in all sorts of absurd actions and ideas. Nevertheless, we find that our thinking will, as time passes, be more and more on the plane of inspiration. We come to rely upon it.
Yeah, and this is not much to say here, but we haven't already said, but just like Rob said, it's early on. It takes some practice and it takes time to become rote, and it takes time to become a natural extension of you, in that it happens without much effort and much thought. So the idea here is that establish the activity, practice it, practice it, practice it, and over time it becomes more natural, and it becomes easier, and it becomes something that happens without much thought at all. And you look around and realize that you've gone through the day with a smile on your face, and it maybe it's because your cheeks are hurting at that point. You're wondering why, and then you realize, oh my gosh, it's been a good day. And the reason it's been a good day is because I've had a spiritual experience. I've tapped into my higher power, and I've actually been able to tackle this day with such a positive assertiveness that it's just gone swimmingly. That's just it. And that's what you're looking for. And sure, it's going to take a little bit of time, and so there's going to be ups and downs. And those downs, you just go and you talk to your higher power at night. You formulate a plan for the next morning, and then you go out and you execute that plan to the best of your ability during the day. And that is a positive step 11, taking the good and the bad and creating something better with both. Rob?
We usually conclude the period of meditation with a prayer that we've shown all through the day what our next step is to be, that we be given whatever we need to take care of such problems. We ask especially for freedom from self-will, and are careful to make no request for ourselves only. We may ask for ourselves, however, if others will be helped. We're careful never to pray for our own selfish ends. Many of us have wasted a lot of time doing that, and it doesn't work. You can easily see why.
Let's keep going for the next paragraph as
Okay.
well.
You got it. If circumstances warrant, we ask our wives or friends to join us in morning meditation. If we belong to a religious denomination, which requires a definite morning devotion, we attend to that also. If not members of religious bodies, we sometimes select and memorize a few set prayers which emphasize the principles we have been discussing. There are many helpful books also. Suggestions about these may be obtained from one's priest, minister, or rabbi. Be quick to see where religious people are right. Make use of what they offer.
Sure. And the reason I had Rob read both paragraphs is because this is a section that you should study. It's a section that you should read and actually look at, because what they're doing here is giving you some of the tools that you will need in order to have a successful step 11. All right. And it'll get to a point that you won't even think of it as your step 11. You'll just think of it as your natural, the natural activity and responsibility that you have to yourself and to others for your day itself. You are always going to be looking at whatever you need to take care of such problems. They're going to be different because the problems are going to be different. So what works for one doesn't work for the other, but you're going to be looking for that guidance and trying to decide for yourself with your higher power how best to go after a particular problem. You basically are going to be looking to be free of your self-will and careful to make no requests for ourselves only. Now, you can pray for yourself, but it's for getting the guidance. It's for to do a better job, to serve another person or a group of people. And you're looking for how they can be helped. And it's kind of interesting. If you really do your true step 11 and you ask, or if you're focused on the other person, okay? Now we're getting into my three threes here, or I'm sorry, my threes. That is the focus on the other person, persuade them through involvement, and earn the right to advance. Well, so here is one where you're going to be focusing on the other person. What is it this person needs? Maybe they just need a kind calm voice to help them through whatever they're going through. Maybe they just, maybe it's just that you're going to help them move something. It's just whatever that might be. But if somebody needs some type of help, merely asking yourself what this person needs opens up a door that you might not otherwise be able to have opened at that point. And you talk to other people, I'll be honest. I haven't yet asked my wife to sit down with me in the morning and pray and meditate over the day. I'm still in that mode of trying to develop it for myself so that it becomes something natural for me. It's not that I don't want her to, it's just that I haven't been able to get to that point at this point. But we're all friends here in this room. So if you've got a friend that you want to ask for help to meditate in the morning, I promise you, if I reached out to somebody like Rob and I said, will you help me with my morning meditation today or whatever, he would be right there with me. And that's what they're talking about here, is somebody that understands what you're going through, that you ask to actually try and work with. And oh, by the way, guess what? That's, you have your higher power working through you and their higher power working through them. It's okay to say, here's my problem. How do you think I should actually do this given the situation? Explaining all of the attributes that you have to explain, and then asking, maybe it's your sponsor, how best do I do this? That is a absolute perfect step 11 in the morning, as far as that goes. Or in the evening, you reach out and call and say, here's the situation. I've made a mistake here. I'm asking for some guidance and I wanted to run it by you. What do you think? That is certainly absolutely okay. And, whether it could be clergy, and sitting down with a therapist or a psychologist or a psychiatrist, somebody out there that you're looking for some guidance and some help with. I've said before, my younger son was having some trouble and some issues with me. He's been seeing a psychologist, and he's now ready to actually talk, and we are setting up some time to do so. But the good news is that he reached outside of himself, and he's been working through this and asked for it. Now, I'm not saying that he necessarily did a true step 11, but anytime somebody is reaching out to another person or to their higher power and asking for guidance and help is basically doing what is necessary for a step 11, especially at night and or in the morning when you're looking for that guidance. And the idea here is to accept what they have to say. It'll be put in its proper place, and maybe it's going to be the one thing that you hadn't thought of that you now have, and you're ready to go because you say, you know what, that person was right. I need to do this instead of what I was thinking because I was off base in regards to that. So I highlighted this on the edge of these two paragraphs, and I put study. I can't emphasize enough that these are instructions and help for somebody to do a successful step 11. All right, Rob.
Yeah, one of the notes I put is, where can I bring God into it before things go off the rails? How can I diffuse things before it causes problems? And the other thing I just want to throw in, just as an aside, is that we know that praying for our own ends. If I pray to win the lottery, it's a selfish thing. But you know what? You can pray for me to win the lottery. That is okay.
I will include that, Rob. I'll let you know.
Thank you. And now the next paragraph that I'm going to read is probably one of the most powerful things that I learned at the beginning of when I got into the book. The pause. As we go through the day, we pause when agitated or doubtful and ask for the right thought or action. We constantly remind ourselves we are no longer running the show, humbly saying to ourselves many times each day, thy will be done. We are then in much less danger of excitement, fear, anger, worry, self-pity, or foolish decisions. We become much more efficient. We do not tire so easily, for we are not burning up energy foolishly as we did. We're trying to arrange life to suit ourselves. It works. It really does.
Sure. And I highlighted that whole paragraph because as we go through the day, we pause when agitated. So just taking that 1 to 10 seconds of pause can actually make all the difference when you're dealing with something that has created angst and frustration and anger. When you ask for the right thought or action, how best do I react to this? And certainly at that point, if you have allowed yourself to pause, the chances of you lashing out are going to start to minimize. Not saying it's not going to happen, but at least you've taken some time and maybe it's not going to be quite as sharp. I'll just say that the last thing you want to do is lash out, but we are still human and we still suffer from the human condition. And sometimes that's just going to happen. You remind yourself that you are no longer running the show. And now you are humble, saying to ourselves many times each day, thy will be done. The idea here is that now you have got a partner in your day-to-day living and you want to rely on that partner like never before. All right. And it's not just you. You're not the guy that's running the show and directing and acting and telling people where to be and what to do. You're looking for guidance from your higher power that's going to give you that. And that way you are able to be more calm, more collected, and easier going. And people are going to notice this. And when they see that you are no longer this angry, kind of lashing out kind of person, they're going to start to have their resistance, their walls, the things that they have built up around themselves to protect themselves from you are going to start to melt away. And you're going to find that you're going to get closer and closer and closer to those people. And not only that, but you're not going to be so worn out at the end of the day. You're going to be rejuvenated. You're going to be energized because of the fact that it was an easier time. You're just not expending that energy on wasteful things. It's true. It's going to happen. Most of you guys have had your spiritual experience and everything, but I'm going to tell you, it's just, man, is it great? Man, is it great? Rob?
Remember on page 60, it says, being convinced any life run on self-will is doomed to failure. In the shortest paragraph, it works. It really does. Mm-hmm. We alcoholics are undisciplined, so we let God discipline us in the simple way we have just outlined. But this is not all. There is action and more action. Faith without works is dead. The next chapter is entirely devoted to step 12.
Right. So a couple of things I want to bring up here. First of all, this is the last page of the working part of the big book. All right. Just as Rob had said, once we get done with our step 5, we quickly go through our step 6 through step 11. And we're ready to go with regard to having created our step 8. And then we hold on our step 9 until we're ready to do this and we're fully prepared to do that. And that is getting through your step 11. Another thing I want to also say here is just saying a prayer in the morning or giving thanks at night is just a check-in. It's really not a true step 11. You really have to dig in for a few minutes, in just a few minutes. It's not supposed to take that long, although the longer you go, I'm going to say probably the better it is, but there are some limitations there in that regard. But at the same time, what you're basically doing is a true review of the day. What are the 3 to 5 things that happened during the day? How did they go? Did they kind of go the way you had planned for them? And were they successful or not successful? And then in the morning, you take that and you go, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to correct what I did wrong yesterday with so-and-so. I'm going to pick up this next amend that I've got on my list that I've decided is time to make. How best to do that? I've kind of got an idea here. I've asked my higher power, and there we go. And it is really an activity that's going to take a little time. I'm going to say, no longer than the time it takes to drink a cup of coffee or tea in the morning, or no longer than it might take to listen to a song or two at night, or some music or something like that. And I only say that because personally, one of the things I try to do at night is to listen to a little bit of music, change it up a little bit, nothing too exciting because I'm trying to go to sleep. But there's a certain number of musicians or composers and stuff that I like to listen to. And I have created this kind of thing where I listen to that as I'm getting ready to go to sleep. And it's kind of on a timer, so it goes off automatically after I've gone to sleep. But during that time, I'm actually thinking about my day and what happened and how best that I can make any changes to that and be able to face the next day. So with that, I'm going to stop here for today, because I want to go ahead and kick off our chapter 7 or step 12 fresh next week. But let's ask Bill to jump in and give us some of his wisdom. Bill?
Hi, this is Bill, alcoholic from New Jersey. Thanks a lot, Leo and Rob. Did a good job here. They're presenting this part of the book. This is like real important stuff. This is how we're supposed to live in our day, after we get through the first portion of all of the steps, 10, 11, and then as we get into 12, that's what we're supposed to live in. We're supposed to live in 10 and 11. And then basically what he's telling us here in step 10, we do step 4 to clean our house, and step 10 is keeping it clean. So he's giving us instructions here on what to do as new mistakes crop up and then things happen, and everything is going to happen to different people. Nobody's going to live a perfect life. And when these things come up, and then he mentions them specifically: selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. You don't have to wait for something to happen for you to do something. As soon as those things crop up in your head, you're supposed to ask God to take them away at once. And you're supposed to discuss them with someone immediately. And if you did something to hurt someone, you make amends quickly. And the reason you make amends quickly is because you want to get it done, and you don't want to harp on it and let things snowball and grow and get out of proportion. And then it says, we resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we can help. We're always trying to think about what we can do to help somebody else, because that's what makes us better. And then it goes into the next paragraph where it has most people consider these the 10th step promises. And like Leo said, this is a description of being recovered. It tells us exactly what's going to happen. By this point, when we've got through all of this stuff, you should be recovered. You should have had some type of a spiritual awakening or spiritual experience. And the drink problem should be gone from us by this point. If it's not, that means you probably missed something in one of the previous steps. And that basically he tells us what we have is a daily reprieve. We're not cured of alcoholism. We're always going to be alcoholic. That's never going to go away. But we have a daily reprieve contingent upon the maintenance of our spiritual condition. So as long as we maintain our spiritual condition, we get a daily reprieve. And what a reprieve is, that's a postponement of a death sentence. When the governor gives a reprieve to a prisoner, they postpone his death sentence. And that's basically what this is. And Bill calls it maintenance here. But when he says maintenance, I believe he's talking about maintenance with the intention to grow. It's just like when you maintain a garden, you pull out the weeds and you water it and you fertilize it. You're doing that so it can grow. That's why we're maintaining our spiritual condition, so that we can grow in it, because this is a constant thing that we're constantly growing in. And then we move on into step 11. And basically step 10 you do during the day, and step 11 you start it at night, and all the rest of the time you do it when you wake up in the morning and everything in between. So, and what Bill's doing here, he's giving us instructions on how to pray. But basically he's telling us, don't pray for yourself, pray for other people. You can pray for yourself if it will help them also. But he's telling us what we're supposed to do and how we're supposed to do it. Because most of us, the only prayer we ever knew was that foxhole prayer, God, get me out of this and I'll never do it again. You know, that's basically what most of us, that's the only prayer we ever knew. At least me, that's the only prayer I ever had. You know, I didn't know I was supposed to pray for other people. So he's giving us some instruction here. And when you pray, you don't have to necessarily be down on your knees with your hands folded together. You know, there's a whole bunch of different ways of praying. You know, when you're wishing good for others, or when you hug a friend, or when you cook to feed your family, or when you send someone off and you say, drive safely or be safe, or when you help someone in need, or when you forgive someone from your heart. These are all different ways of praying. The best prayer is lived, not said. You know, I can sit around for a half hour in the morning and a half hour during the day and then a half hour at night and saying all kinds of wonderful prayers. But if I live my life like a jerk, what good is that? I'm supposed to do the right thing. That's the best prayer that you can do, is living your life the right way. That makes the guy upstairs more happy than anything that I could say. So we're supposed to live our life like it's a prayer and do the right thing. And then he tells us basically that faith without works is dead. In the last paragraph on the last page 88, faith without works is dead. That means if I don't do something, my faith is going to be dead. And what's the work? He tells us in the next sentence. The next chapter is entirely devoted to step 12. The work in this program is helping another alcoholic to stay sober, carrying this message to them. The work is not me going through the steps. The work is me taking someone else through the steps. That's what that's do. And without me doing that, I'm going to be dead. My faith is going to be dead. I have to do my part in order for the faith to kick in. I just can't sit around and have faith all day and then think everything's going to turn out the way I want it. I have to do my part. I have to do some leg work. I have to put in some elbow grease. And sometimes when you're working with another alcoholic, it is a little bit hard to do that, but we have to do it because that's what keeps us better. It told us it's going to tell us on the next page, on page 89, that nothing keeps you sober more than intensive work with another alcoholic. That's what this book says, and I go along with this 100%. So when you get to step 10, you're supposed to do step 10. That's a walking around in the daytime step, and then you start step 11 at night, and you do it, and you continue it the next morning when you wake up, and you're supposed to continue it all day long. So basically, step 10 is when I make a mistake, and it gives me a way to get out of it. In step 11, I can double check on what I did during the day, whether I did it right or wrong. And if I missed something, I can pick it up in step 11. So 10 and 11 are what keep me on the straight and narrow. That's basically what they're there for. And then when we move on to step 12, according to this book, step 12 is what's going to keep me from picking up a drink more than anything else. So basically, that's all I got. Thanks a lot for letting me share.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you, Bill. All right, we will close with the Serenity Prayer and then open things up for discussion.
Perfect. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference.